Hey, and welcome to the Happy Rant Podcast. I am your host, Barnabas Piper. Well, at least your host for today's episode. Normally, Ted Cluck holds this position and does a fine job of point guarding this podcast along as Ronnie and I talk with him about whatever subjects we want to talk about. We're kind of rambling and wandering to and fro and whatnot. Sometimes, however, when we try that, it just doesn't work for some reason. Technical reasons, or we're all in a bad mood, or we pick subjects that just fall utterly flat, and so it's total trash, and we can't put it in front of you. That's kind of what happened this week. We tried an episode, and we got done with it and said that will never see the light of day. So, because we care about you and want to put an episode in front of you, what we're going to do instead is release 3 of our Patreon exclusive episodes. So, most weeks, we release a bonus episode on patreon.com for people who support us financially. You can support us at $1 a month or $100 a month or however much money a month. There's actually some free stuff that goes along with that at certain levels, and you get these bonus episodes. So we're going to put 3 of those together into a single episode for your listening, hopefully enjoyment. The way this works is I pose a question to the other guys on these episodes, and we talk about it for about 10 or 15 minutes. That makes up a Patreon episode. So you're going to get 3 of those. Before we get there, though, be sure to check out our sponsor, Visual Theology. We've talked about them before. You go to visualtheology.church. They have Bible study materials. They have theological study materials. They have posters. They have curriculum. They have a bunch of different things that are really well designed, really clearly written, and are made specifically for parents, teachers, or just students of Scripture to dig in a fresh new way. It's hard to describe in some ways. You really need to go check it out. It is visual theology, after all, not just me talking about it theology. So visualtheology.church, and then use the code HAPPYRANT at checkout to get a 20% discount on your purchase. Check them out today. Here you go. Enjoy these episodes.
Hey, welcome to the Happy Rant Patreon-only podcast, a very special podcast for the very special people in our lives. And I'm not referring to our spouses and children. I'm referring to our listeners, the best of our listeners, the ones who support us financially. Here's how this works. Piper brings an incredibly thought-provoking question to the table, and we vamp about it for 10 to 12 minutes. And Pipe, it's just you and me today. Our boy Ronald's very busy. He's out and about, having meetings all day, making things happen, dreaming big dreams.
Sharing tinctures.
Texting us spellings of tincture. So apparently he had to run. He's like, boys, I got a heart out. And then I'll spend the next 10 minutes texting you clever spellings of tincture. But at any rate, Piper, that's not the point.
No,
the point is the question that you're about to drop on us. What is it?
Yeah, so we had listeners who submitted wonderful questions, of which we just covered a couple on the big show. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to hold on to those to continue to do on this. But there's a question that I've been wanting to talk to you about, Ted, particularly. And it's a question about writing. So I'm really asking this for my sake and hoping other people enjoy it. And it is simply this. What does it mean to find your voice as a writer?
Oh, wow.
So this is a piece of advice that people always get when they're getting into writing. Oh, you got to find your voice. Okay, that's like saying find your aura or your identity. What does this even mean? What is finding your voice?
It's really amorphous. It's like writers' conference psychobabble. You know, it's the kind of thing that sounds really good from the front of the room, but it doesn't actually mean anything. I think I'm going to venture an answer, and then I'll want to hear your answer too. And I'm guessing there's going to be some overlap. But I think, and part of what I do in college is to try to introduce my students to really great work by a variety of different people with different voices or styles. And I think step one of like ascertaining what your own voice is as a writer is like determining what you like and why you like it. And to do that, you have to read a lot of stuff. And for me as a writer, reading a lot of stuff is fun. Mm-hmm. It's the part of like talent development in this business that I do get excited about. I enjoy doing it. So especially younger versions of ourselves early in our careers, It was really fun to read a lot of authors and kind of grab on to different people whose styles I really admired. And I think in doing so, and it's the same like pathology that like musicians use, right? When bands get asked about their influences, you can hear the bands that they like in their work. And I think it's the same for writers. So ascertaining what you like, why you like it is step one. And then I think step two is just practicing a lot, putting a lot out there. And in doing so, you kind of develop a rhythm, you develop a pattern, you develop, as you get older, a way of seeing the world that finds its way into the work. And so for me right now, the thing that I really enjoy writing the most are these little, like one-off 700 to 900 word like newspaper columns. And, those got coalesced into an essay collection that dropped a year and a half or so ago called A Hard Thing on a Beautiful Day. But I'm still doing the columns, and they always end up hitting at a level that's like 2/3 humor, 1/3 heartfelt, or 1/3 humor and 2/3 heartfelt. But they're all kind of on that spectrum. And I would say that's just kind of my voice right now. And I don't talk about it a lot, and I wouldn't necessarily know how to define it in a more kind of squared off way than that. But that's kind of how it's developed for me. But I want to hear you on this, Pipe. Does any of that resonate?
Yeah, I really liked the point about reading a lot to see what you resonate with, because which is different than imitating, so you don't you're not being derivative as a writer as much as I would like to communicate in the same manner as that person.
Right.
The thing that I run into is all of the writers who I love the most are fiction writers, and I don't really write fiction. And so taking that, like the narrative style of Larry McMurtry, for example, and doing it in Christian nonfiction is weird. It's tough to do, because he's writing sparse dialogue and just these, the way that he describes and kind of gets into the heads of his characters, all of which is great, really hard to do. And you're talking about like, what are 7 ways to read the Bible or whatever.
Right.
So, and to me, I think finding your voice as a writer has to do with kind of, are you comfortable in your own skin?
Yeah.
So when you're writing, do you feel like, yeah, that was me? I put me on the page, as opposed to I put information on the page, or I tried a new thing. If you're trying stuff when you're writing, it's not bad. You have to do it. It's how you grow.
Right.
And maybe it's progress towards, figuring out a voice. But you have to kind of come away and go, yeah, that sounds like me. I said what I intended to say as in as genuine a way as possible, according to me. And that's very fluid. It probably changes from time to time. And I think, I think that the parts of my writing that I go, ugh, that doesn't have the right voice are the parts where I sound like I'm trying to be something else.
Yeah,
I'm trying to write with the descriptive flair of another author, or, with the theological terminology of a scholar or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, that's just not me. I need to find the way that kind of, that punches the way that I punch, not the way that he does. And so it's nebulous. But I think part of the way you can recognize it on the other side is when people say, I love your writing. Like the way that you communicated that landed with me, because it means that you found an effective means of communication, which is different than, like, there are a lot of Christian authors, for example, who I don't think hear that.
Right.
They hear helpful book, good ideas, learned a lot, all of which are useful things, but not, I loved your writing.
Yeah.
There's not a style there.
Yeah. I always viewed I love your writing as the best possible compliment. You know what I mean? That's the one that I think you and I are looking for in terms of things that people could say to us that would make us feel good as writers. And I can say from the professor side of things, when I do see it in my students, it's really exciting. Like from freshman year to senior year, the better part of my roster, like they do find their voice. They kind of find their groove. And sometimes it's a particular assignment that unlocks it. Sometimes it's just like putting a lot of product out there through our school paper, and then eventually they find their way into a voice. But for most of them, they do find it, and I think it's exciting for them, and it's definitely fun for me.
Well, I think some of voice is learning your genres too.
Yeah, totally.
I'm a lot closer to having a voice when it comes to like writing on just the general Christian nonfiction realm.
Yeah.
Because it's what I've done the bulk of. What does it look like to speak genuinely, to speak evocatively, or to write these ways, to be clear, to be concise? You ask me to write poetry, and I constantly feel like I'm just throwing words at pages,
Yeah.
Trying somebody else's form. I'm thinking about poets that I've read, and I'm like, all right, Langston Hughes did this, but like he's a genius and I'm not. And, so your genre is a big piece of it. So it makes sense why when you talk to your students or when you kind of see their progress, it might be a particular project because that essay, whatever was asked of them in that essay, a memoir, a reporting thing, tell a story about a meaningful person, it hit the nail on the head for them. And somebody else is going to be the theological argumentative essay. And you're like, oh, yep, we're really good at those. Two different things.
Definitely. Yeah, it's a good question. And I think a lot of writers or a lot of people who want to write, they get like almost locked up by this question. They feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have a voice, or I don't know what my voice is, or whatever. But I think it's simpler because it starts at the level of what do you like, and you like Larry McMurtry. You could probably talk for a half hour about what you like about him as a writer. I mean, I think that's baseline, right?
Yeah.
And, it's going to inform how you write, like you said, in a way that's not derivative, but in a way that's, it becomes a part of who you are on the page. And that's fun. It's part of and the same pathology holds for athletes, right? Like you and I were more limited in our athletic ability than we probably are in our writing ability. But like there were guys whose games I wanted to emulate and players who I liked, and watching them would, aspects of their game would kind of trickle down into my game. And I think writing is the same way, and it's fun in the same way.
Well, and that's a good parallel because part of finding your voice is finding your role. So, like I was an utterly mediocre basketball player, the kind of guy who worked well on a team that had star players.
Yeah.
But because I could do certain things well and not most other things.
Yeah.
And I knew that about myself, which means that I kind of found my basketball voice at that limited level where it's like, oh, I'm going to support the guys who are good, not try to be that guy. And so there's just, which means that once you find that, you can be close to perfect at those things. Or at least that's what you strive for. I think writing is like that. I know what I can and can't do to a degree, so I should strive to near perfection in that, not try to be Langston Hughes or Larry McMurtry. Like those are not my guys. I love them both, but not the game I'm trying to have in this instance.
Yeah, that's great. But baked into what you said there is a large degree of self-awareness and humility, which I think a lot of writers don't have. So
that's true.
I mean, and that just, I don't know how it's been for you, but for me, like that has just come with age. It's come with age. I think it's come with, the Lord like refining my heart in a lot of other areas that were painful, but it's led to like a posture of, okay, I know I can't do everything, and that's fine. Like I can celebrate it in other people.
Yep.
I know what I am capable of and what I'm not capable of, and I'm going to try to, in the spirit of good stewardship, be the best at what I'm capable of. And it's a peaceful place to land. And, it's just the Lord that's brought me there, brought us there. But it's a much more joyful way to be a writer than the way that says I have to be the best at everything, And
it really helps you enjoy other people's work more. So, for example, totally. I think 5 to 7 years ago, trying to co-author a book with you and Ronnie would have been really hard for me.
Yeah.
Because it would have felt comparative. I don't feel a hint of that right now because when I read the contributions you guys put in chapters, I'm like, that sounds like Ronnie and that sounds like Ted. I am not either of those guys.
Yeah.
But I can certainly jump off what they just did and give my best effort at a response. And so it feels genuinely collaborative as opposed to like some sort of skill measuring contest or like crossing of writing swords or like, who's the cock of the walk kind of thing. I don't feel any of that.
Yeah, man, what a great word. And I totally agree. And I don't feel that either. But yeah, I think a decade ago I would have felt it. And you would have been one of those guys that feels like you have to win everything.
Yes.
And there's just a lot of things in the world that aren't set up that way. And I think writing a book with two of your friends it's not a thing that you have to win, Yeah,
it's not a zero-sum game where there's a good and there's a winner and a loser. It can be like the winner is the reader when we all do what we're good at.
I agree 100%. And yeah, I think it's going to be a good book. And I think it's going to be good, by the very nature of what we're discussing. We're all far along enough in our lives where we can just enjoy each other and not be, trying to flex all the time. And I've enjoyed reading what we have. I think what's there is really fun. It's really lively. It really moves the reader along, and it's been a blast. So little shout out to our book project there, which I think we're getting close to being done with.
Yeah, I feel like we gotta be at about 70% or so. Just like every chapter is either finished with a draft or we have a significant contribution. So we're pushing to the finish line of draft 1.
It was funny. We had that big flurry of text the other day where Ron's like, "Hey, what about this book? We got to get it finished." And then it was kind of crickets after that. So
and then the last text on that was him going, "Yeah, I really need to find time to get back into this."
Yeah, the last text was him being like, "Oh yeah, it's kind of my parts," So we'll get there one way or another. Pipe, this has been fun. We've done what we always do on our Patreon only show, which is go deep on one topic. Happened to be a really interesting one this morning. So thanks for bringing that to the table. And we will see you next time. Hey, welcome to the Happy Rant Patreon only podcast, a very special podcast for our very special listeners, those who support us financially via Patreon. Here's how this works. Real easy setup, boys. Piper brings a question to the table. It's usually intriguing, thought-provoking, and better than the thing that we just did 27 minutes of garbage radio on. And we are counting on that today, Pipe, because we just did some really bad radio. I'm Ted Cluck, joined as always in our Patreon-only studio by my good friends, my partners in radio, Barnabas Piper and Ron Martin. Pipe, what do you got for us?
All right, this one was posed by a Patreon listener. So again, it gets a little extra merit rather than those questions that are just submitted via Twitter and things like that. And it's simply, this is a wide open question. So Ronnie, I think this will suit you because it's not one of those like pick your favorite top 5, whatever. It's just like you can go anywhere with this one.
Oh man, well, that's good, baby.
What would you do if you knew you could not fail? Like what's something you would do if you? So maybe another way to put this is, what's something you always wish you could have done, but like life just closed all the doors on it, or you're like, oh, I don't have the ability to do that thing.
Oh, good grief.
Why does this bother you so much, baby? Can we go 2 minutes on the pathology of this?
Of Ronnie being mad at every Patreon question?
No, I'm not mad. I'm not mad at it at all. In fact, I love these kind of questions. They just grieve me because they feel too close and there's too much regret already just like surfacing in me, thinking about, oh no, what is that thing that I wished I could have done that, like, because I'm 70 now, I can't do, you know?
Right. I know, baby. You're
so other than that, no,
you're a really good looking 70. I'm just going to throw that out there. Yeah. You've aged really well.
Are we saying good looking, Pipe? I'm just kidding. So what would you do if you could fail?
Well, gosh, man. Okay, so I think it would have to be something like I don't know, like Big T. I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I'm just using this as an example. Like maybe you would say, dude, I'd love to play for fill in the blank NFL team, play the Super Bowl. Yeah. So yeah, it would probably be something like. It might even be something like I would love to like race one season of professional Supercross and just come out of nowhere as an old guy, which is impossible, and literally like win the championship and have everybody just go like, what was that?
Okay, I'm interested in this. I'm into it.
Because it feels like it would be the most fun thing in the world to me.
Yeah, it'd be a big story. You get to do
Yeah, the
something.
whole thing. Yeah.
Yeah, something that you enjoy doing. So what's like the ceiling for old guys in Supercross? Like who's the oldest guy in the circuit right now?
Well, like the oldest guy that's ever like won like a
Yeah.
championship is probably like 30 years old.
Oh wow. So
Yeah,
it really
it's
is a
really
young
low.
man's game.
Yeah, so if I came in as a 70-year-old man, it would be
Yeah.
insane. I mean, it
Yeah.
would be like I would be the most popular rider that ever lived based on the fact that I did something that unprecedented. It would be like
It'd be wild.
no people talk about it forever. It'd be that crazy.
Like your press conferences would be really good just
Oh
because
my
you'd have
gosh.
that like 70-year-old's perspective on it. People would
Just be
love it,
like,
dude.
who is this guy? Like, where did
Yeah.
he and how is he dominating right now? Because if I
Mhm.
couldn't fail, it means that in a 17 race series, I would win every race.
17
and
races.
that is
Yeah.
something that nobody's ever done.
Gosh, that'd be fun.
So I'd break all the records, age-wise, race-wise. It would be insane. It would be so much fun. And then here's the great part. After that, obscurity. I never
Yeah.
come back. I never race another season.
Your sponsors would be like Metamucil and Depends adult undergarments. You'd have a bunch of like skewing older kind of.
Well, I would make all my money because everybody would be throwing money at me for the next season, knowing that I wouldn't even be able to qualify to be in the show. Because I would go back to being who I am.
Yes. Yeah.
And I'm assuming it would only be for this one shot, this 1 year, this one time. That's how I'm viewing the question. Yeah, not forever. So anyway, that would be fun.
I dig it. Pipe, what would you do?
Man, I'm struggling with this question in kind of a Ronnie-esque way because the premise of it kind of undermines the question itself in some way. If you knew you could not fail, kind of takes away the fun of succeeding. You know what I mean?
Well, that's true. That's true too.
I mean, and now the way that you described it, Ronnie, is like kind of having the chance to compete. Like you're not guaranteed to win. It's the like a shot at and just sort of coming to that culminating story, which is better than like if it was just sort of a magic, you will succeed at whatever you do. I kind of feel like it wouldn't be satisfactory. It would just be like, well, I'll just get rich off this or something,
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And if you want to do that, you could do that. Like, in other words, like, I want to be able to, like, I've always dreamed of investing in something that can't lose. And if you can't fail, then you make a bunch of cash. Yeah.
But I alternate between the two dreams that, one is more creative and one is more like the childhood dream I've held on to. So one is sort of akin to what you said, Ronnie, sort of the Roy Hobbs baseball story. Like I'm 38. There are 38-year-olds in Major League Baseball, but just coming up and having like an iconic at bat or an iconic game or two at the major league level.
Yeah, man.
At this age, like I walked out there and, I went deep off of, I don't know, pick your favorite unhittable reliever. Like I took Jacob deGrom deep to win a game for the Twins or something like
Pipe,
that.
it's the same dream, man. We're talking about the same dream.
And
Awesome.
I mean, it's the same kind of thing that we've wanted to do since we were kids, except doing it as an old guy out of nowhere would be really cool.
It would be the Roy Hobbs dream is what it would be.
Yeah.
The other dream would be sort of that.
Would your abdomen be bleeding, a la Roy Hobbs?
Well, no, because I didn't get shot in a hotel room years before and then go into obscurity.
Would you like maybe be married to Glenn Close?
Not at this point in life. No.
Did you have a child with her that you never knew about? We're just breaking down the entire.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna do it, we gotta do
I was only thinking of hitting the light pole, and exploding the bat and stuff. So
that's probably safer. That's the safer.
Keep it.
It is.
Keep this plot line real simple. The other one would be sort of the Harper Lee To Kill a Mockingbird, like writing that one novel that just, it never dies. It is the only people who insult it are people who are just like, they're just hunting for things to hate, because anybody with a brain thinks it's, it's like, it just connects with humanity. It's kind of the perfect novel in a lot of ways, or one of them. Like thinking like East of Eden or that, but the Harper Lee one stands out because it's the only significant work that Harper Lee wrote. The other one that was published at after her death didn't matter. What is it? Go Set a Watchman.
Go Set a
Watchman. I think that it's one of those two. It's like the Roy Hobbs moment or the To Kill a Mockingbird novel that's like, that's it. That's the one I'm writing. I'm not going to write the John Grisham novel a year and people forget about them.
Yeah.
Just that one.
Yeah.
Dude, I love it. I love that too. I think that's really cool. Like, because I thought about that, because that thing would you'd only have to do that once, Pipe, and then you're good. That's all you'd have to do.
Quick question, Ronnie. Would the same kind of creative satisfaction apply to a song? So if you wrote a song that, because like there are just songs that continue to get radio play. They've been on for, whether it's like something that the Beatles did or Bob Dylan did or, the Rolling Stones did or whatever, that's like, yeah, everybody knows these songs. They're just still part of society.
It totally would. For me, I would make it an entire album that was like the biggest selling album of all time, so that the album, not just one song, lived, on in for me, like Rumors from Fleetwood Mac or one of these records that sold 30 million units, and like everybody, like it still sells like 500,000 copies a year, and everybody talks about it, and they still get the cover of Rolling Stone every 2 years. It's like that kind of a thing.
And if anybody ever surpasses them in sales, it's like an iconic moment. It's like
100%. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. That makes total sense. I just don't know the music world, so I didn't know if there was the same sense of like creative gratification.
Oh, totally. It would be amazing because it never dies. It's like you've created something that is timeless, and I think we all desire to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ted, what you got?
What is it for you, Big T? Lay it on us.
Boys, I'm going to go the other way. Okay. And yours are great. And I can relate to both of them very much. I just want to make money. I want to be like every other guy in my church who isn't me, apparently, and just fall like backside over tea kettle into a huge pile of cash, which is something that these guys all manage to do and that I cannot manage to do. So I just want money. I want filthy lucre.
Well, babe, the book's going to drop here soon. You don't. Just give it a minute. Of course. Give it a minute.
The book is going to become the Fleetwood Mac Rumors of the publishing world.
of podcasting compilation books.
Podcasting niche compilation books.
You know what? Absolutely. That might be one that we might hit number one on Amazon with that podcast.
I mean,
what was the word for it? What's the category, Pipe? You just said
podcast compilation books.
Oh my gosh! I mean, that market is so big, but I think we might be able to conquer it.
Podcast / compilation books / Christian / humor.
Boys, I can't wait till we get number one in podcast compilation books.
Oh, and a little, sneaky fun one for listeners here. Every new book hits number one in something on Amazon because Amazon creates categories. So, we're 100% going to get that, and it's going to be so exciting. And
behind like the liturgist or something.
Yeah,
thing like that.
We're still behind John Mark Comer. Cannot
the Preachers and Sneakers they'll have this
John
one
Mark
week
Comer.
where they hit it. Preachers
Get
and
some
Sneakers.
Rest, everybody. Yeah.
Maybe if we hadn't hustled so hard, we would have got number one.
Oh. Well, boys, we've done what we always do. Well,
hold on, Big T. Yeah. Flesh out the money thing, man. Like, what do you like? Do you have anything specifically that you'd like to make the dollars from, or you just literally don't care?
See, baby, my whole problem is wanting to make the dollars via something specific and wanting it to be some stupid, creatively like stimulating
something you might be proud of.
Something that I might be proud of. Something I might give a crap about.
Okay, well, let's roll this out there. What way would you like to brag about having made the money?
See, that's my problem. I always want to brag. I want it to be something that I care about.
And you want it to be a bestseller of something.
That's
not just like You don't want to be like a real estate investor who just is crushing it.
Guys who make money are not arty. They're not.
Guys,
they don't care.
Guys who make money are like
they don't care. What
invented like some new kind of rope, or like
it doesn't have to be their passion. That's what you're saying.
Like I bought this tenement building downtown and I haven't seen it in 2 years because I hire out all the maintenance or whatever. Like it's that kind of guy that makes money. And that kind of guy is not me.
Because the money is the art. The
money is the art to them. The money is the means to an end and the end. And
man,
that's it. Yeah. I'm depressed now.
Okay, so here's the thing. After you made that money, you could then write the book, The Money is the Art, and then you would have your bestseller.
Snap. The Art of Money by Ted Kluck. And it'll have that cover where like I'm in a suit and I'm like leaning on something and like one of my legs is cocked up a little bit. You know like the image.
Oh, I know.
But
Yeah,
wouldn't you want to
I'm
go
giving
for like the
cameras-
Carl Lentz lat pose? You know, where you're like, how can I flex half of my upper body into this photo at one time?
Exactly.
Well, the money would buy you those kind of abs, baby.
Yeah.
So you would have
you
those.
bet it would. Zondervan
Baby, I'm
would
clicking on Amazon right now. I just sent you a copy of the Depeche Mode study Bible. I
Oh,
thought,
wonderful.
I
Yeah.
thought you could use that right now.
It'll plunge me into a deep depression, which I'll use to create more non-selling art. It's a vicious cycle, baby. Boys, I gotta go.
I don't know that Enneagram 4s can make money. Let me just leave it at that. That's just
Interesting. We need to talk more about that.
Let's talk about that next time.
Yeah, let's talk about it even off the air sometime. It might encourage me to know that none of us are making money. All right, boys, we've done what we always do here, in that we've had a much better session with the Patreon question than with our real content. Pipe, as always, listeners, as always, thank you for just propping us up financially and allowing us to feel like the kind of rich guys that we can't be. And until next time. Hey, welcome to the Happy Rant Patreon only podcast, a very special podcast for our very special listeners, those who support us financially. I'm Ted Cluck, joined as always in our special Patreon studios by my good friend Barnabas Piper and my other good friend Ronald J. Martin. The setup here is simple, boys. Pipe comes to the table with one probing, interesting question, which we will vamp about for 10 to 12 minutes. Pipe, what do you have for us this morning?
This was a listener submitted question, so a Patreon listener again. So they have
elite.
They have paid to play, if you will. And it's a different sort of question than what we've done in the past because it's a bit open ended. It's a bit more personal, and it allows us to praise other people.
Who do you think is cool? That went over so well last time.
Slightly more specific than that, I think. And here's what I think. I think Ronnie's actually going to thrive answering this question, unlike some questions that we always get a Judas Priest on or whatever.
Oh boy, here we go.
The question is this: what are some things that you appreciate about your spouse?
Man,
which I thought was a great question. I thought it was posed really well because it wasn't like, "What's your favorite thing?" And also we talk about our spouses, but always like in a specific context. You know, we were having a conversation, we were dealing with this thing, we were, she said this, but not like we think they're great for these reasons.
Yeah, and I think we love praising our spouses. I think we all love doing that. We do it to each other too, even off the air. So yeah, that's a great question. I'm happy about that.
Yeah.
Who would like to go first on the things we appreciate about our spouses question?
Dude, I'll go first.
Yeah, go for
All
it,
right.
Big T.
Dude, KK, amazing smile, amazing laugh, quick to laugh, huge, loyal listener to these podcasts. KK loves it when we drop new episodes. That just makes me feel good, man. It's sweet. It's kind. Let's see. We just enjoy spending time together. We like talking about stuff. She's a great conversation partner. The best at that. So as far as people in the world that I want to talk to, she's top on the list. Yeah, that's a few things. I'm sure there are more, but we can get into more of them as we get going. What about you guys?
I'll go next
go
with
for it,
a handful of things. This is so open-ended, it was almost difficult to answer. But one of the first things that comes to mind is that Lauren she's non-dramatic. So does not make a big deal out of unnecessary things, especially not at other people's expense. So she doesn't get caught up in people's gossip or talking trash about people. If we have a minor crisis in the home, she's never blowing it up or taking things personally. Just calm, patient, realistic, and all that comes from a place of just being kind. She just kind of thinks, well, what's good for people in this situation? And that shows itself in a million other ways too. She's one of the most sort of instinctively generous people I've met, where she finds out somebody's having a baby or going through a hard time, and she's immediately like, oh, we should do X for them, or oh, I can make this for them. She makes quilts for people. She loves to bake. She loves to drop off meals. There's just her instinct is, oh, I can bless them in this way. And it's never an obligation. It's always like she finds joy in doing it, which is not my instinct. And
That's
so
a remarkable quality.
Yeah, I've had my character improved greatly just by kind of being adjacent to somebody whose instinct is to care for people like that.
That's awesome.
That's really good. Yeah. Yeah, I think when I think of Big M, man, it's a little bit of what Pipe said too. Big M she is just one of the most giving people that I've ever met. She's generous, and I think one of the ways she's super generous is in the way that she has this ability to listen and to ask questions and to care, specifically to care for me in that way, because I'm such a verbal processor. And for her to give me that time to do that, is really important. And I think just her kindness, she puts up a lot with me, just because I am the bigger personality guy and she is not. So she's an introvert married to an extrovert, and yet, man, she just I think God designed her to like have this rather large capacity to receive things and people that are unlike her in a very unique and gracious way. And there's just nobody in the world I enjoy more than her, by a long shot.
Not even at Jared C. Is it close?
Yeah.
I mean, those trips to Marshall's.
I mean, even
gosh, you guys have got.
I have to stand outside and wait for him while he's in there, guys.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, you're waiting in the car, but
Jared, you go ahead, man. I know you got to hit TJ Maxx. I'm just gonna hang back. I'm gonna hang back and actually just read the tweets that you're going to be making while you're in TJ Maxx.
Exactly.
While composing some of your own Yoda tweets, of course.
Based on those tweets, right?
Jared's TJ Maxx time is your Yoda tweet time. It works out for the best for everybody.
That's a symbiotic relationship, Piper. They build on each other's strengths. We've
only gone 6 minutes. Should we do one more round of one more thing we appreciate?
I love how we can only go 6 minutes praising our wives.
Well, no, it's like 6 or 60, Yeah. Like you could and all of us probably have written like entire pages about things that we appreciate. So
I've got another one, and it's similar to Big R's in that it speaks to like how we deal with different kinds of crises in our household and our family. KK is like amazing at the day-to-day stuff, like the little grindy day-to-day things, which quite frankly I suck horribly at. That's the kind of thing I get like all glum and existential about. I tend to be really good at like the huge crises, like somebody slashed their arm open and they have to go to the ER. Like I'm the guy you want with you in the ER. I'm the puke guy. I'm the throw up guy. Whenever anybody throws up, I'm like there with them and cleaning it up. KK's terrible in those contexts, but she's amazing at like the rest of life, which is like 98% of life. And I'm so thankful because if I had to live with someone who is as much of a baby as I am about like just the grindy little minutia of life, it just wouldn't work. It totally would not work. Another thing, we love like doing decadence in the same way. So like relaxing in the evening the same way, watching stuff together. Like we do all of our media consumption like together for the most part, which is a lot of fun. Because it gives us stuff to talk about and we gravitate toward the same kind of stuff. So I'm thankful.
Yeah, you guys share a lot of commonality in sort of what like your interests are. Like your sort of your it's sort of like your media and your artistic driven interests.
Like Italian language, detective shows and stuff.
Who knew, man? Yeah, who knew? For sure.
Still discovering things about each other 20 whatever years into marriage.
I knew that it would all culminate in like Icelandic crime dramas. That's where this whole thing has been headed.
It is. I mean, that's a good marriage, though, Big T. Like,
it really is.
If you guys can find commonality in Icelandic crime dramas, I think that we would describe that as a marriage that's just aces.
Our marriage book is coming out soon.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Marriage and Icelandic crime dramas.
It's the title is Icelandic Marriage.
Yeah. The title is actually all just consonants, like every Icelandic name.
Exactly.
It's a bunch of words like Bjork that nobody knows how to pronounce. So,
Okay, I'll go. This feels like youth group when someone's sharing, like, okay, I guess that's my
now
turn.
I got to take a deeper dive. I get it.
Yeah. Two things that come to mind. One is Lauren's one of the first people I've realized has a true sense of humor. Like, she's not a joke teller. She doesn't. She's not sort of the hub of the laughter wheel, but she loves humor. Like, recognizes it in other people, appreciates it in other people. Is sneaky witty, but it's always just sort of like, she like slides it into a conversation or like jabs back at me, which is good because I need somebody who hits back sometimes verbally. And so just like really enjoys lighthearted humor. And as somebody who would be dead without laughter in my life, that's awesome because we laugh together all the time about all sorts of things. And as a perk, she thinks that I'm funny most of the time and is very free to tell me that I sound like an idiot when I'm not funny. So, I appreciate that also. I think the other thing that comes to mind is how good of a friend she is. She's, so she moved from Michigan to Tennessee a few years ago and has steadily maintained her handful of meaningful friendships there via phone calls, via visits. Like, she doesn't just let friends drift once a friend is significant in her life, which is, again, not something I excel at. Distance for me is usually like, well, if we see each other again, I'm sure we'll be fine, but we might not talk for 3 years. And she just kind of sets the bar for what it means to be a faithful friend. So, and that carries over into our marriage. Like, she's just a faithful, consistent person. When somebody is in that circle of her friendships, like, she's on it.
Nice.
That's good, Pipe. Yeah. Here's what's interesting about me and Big M is that we do not, Big T, sync up well on our media preferences. So Big M is waiting for that new Liam Neeson movie to come out. You know what I mean? And
Taken 6.
Yeah, for sure. And I have no interest in that kind of stuff. I want the weepy drama, kind of thing. And she has no stomach for any of that stuff. But here's what's great about Big M is she will just sit there and watch those things with me because she knows that I love them. Yeah. And so that's part of her sort of her the way that she, kind of cares for me.
Now, is she that's big. Is she locked in, or is she like diddling her phone while watching?
No, so so you will never see Big M without her Kindle because she is she's never not reading. Okay. So she kind of just, it's basically she's married to me and the Kindle. Yeah. And so
shout out the Kindle.
Yeah, so she'll watch it and somehow she'll sort of keep in step with it enough while knocking out a quick 10 to 12 chapters over the course of the entire program. Yeah. And it's one of those things. But I just want her there. That's all I care about. It's like you don't have to be all lockstep in with it. I just want to be able to sit there with you. The other thing too about Big M, as you guys know, is she loves to cook. And that's one of the ways that she shows love, which is a huge benefit to me in my life.
Amen and amen.
Yeah, amen and amen. And so we love food. We love going out and getting food. We love, and I'm becoming more of a like a sous chef to her chefness, if that's a word. And so we're doing a little more of that together in some ways now. She's teaching me the ways of the Force when it comes to cooking. And so we really are lockstep into our love of food together. We do that a lot. So that's just something that we have a ton of commonality that kind of overshadows sort of our lack of media preferences. You know what I'm saying?
I think it's time for an Icelandic crime drama in your lives.
I think it might be because she would love that.
I bet she would
love that.
Yeah.
I have a logistical question about these viewing habits. And maybe this hasn't come into play. How do you read a book while watching a show that has subtitles?
That's a great question.
I don't really do subtitle stuff, Pipe. So maybe that's a question for Big T.
Yeah. So for us, if we're watching a subtitled show, we're not also trying to read. So, I think with the two of us, there's a sense of being locked in on the Icelandic crime drama together. That's the main event of the evening when it's on. So
I appreciate that.
I know. I think you just have to compartmentalize your life a little bit, and,
Right.
and we've tried to build more time in for the Icelandic crime dramas. And, I think it's bearing fruit right now in our lives, to be honest. It's been a good discipline for us to develop. So I know it's working out, but, boys, we've done what we always do on this episode of Patreon only radio, which is, go 10 to 12 minutes for our very special audience. It was fun talking about our ladies, man. They're our better halves for sure. So, and I think they're all coming to Texas, right?
I don't think Lauren can because of work stuff, but
rats, man.
Oh well.
Yeah. Oh, well.
Next time, we just have to plan another live show.
Exactly. Yeah, Iceland. I mean, she better come to Iceland with us.
Oh, dude, she has to be there for the ice.
She would be the first to say that she needs to come to Iceland when we get that one booked for sure. She would. She loves to travel, so
KK and I will just be in the room watching TV the whole time. Because we'll be in the homeland of our shows. Nevertheless, boys, another topic for another day. Patreon listeners, we will see you next time.
The Happy Rant is brought to you by Resonate Recordings. If you go to resonaterecordings.com, you can see the full range of services they offer. So if you're considering starting a podcast, they are the ones we recommend going with. Again, go to resonaterecordings.com to see their prices, to connect with them and ask any questions, and to see what they can do to help you launch, edit, master, and improve your podcast. Again, go to resonaterecordings.com to see what they can do to help you launch and improve your podcast.